Family Food Truck. Chapter 1. Just Make the Crepes. You know it's bad when coleslaw feels like a health food. I was standing in line at the Bainville Rodeo, staring at a paper tray of shredded cabbage swimming in mayo, while the air around me smelled like scorched beef and regret. My kids were somewhere near the mechanical bull. My husband was pretending to need a very long walk. And I was one greasy bite away from a full existential crisis. That's when the idea hit me. Or maybe it hit me weeks ago, and this was just the final straw slapping me across the face like a fly swatter of divine frustration. "I'm starting a crepe truck," I muttered. "Excuse me?" said the woman behind me. "Nothing," I smiled, too wide. "Talking to myself." But I wasn't. Not really. I was talking to the part of me that had been begging to do something different for years. The part that wanted to make something beautiful in a town full of beige. Something clicked. The kind of click that can't be undone by logic or sleep, or even your husband reminding you that you've never so much as changed a propane tank in your life. That night, after getting the kids into bed and pretending not to notice the fact that Elijah still hadn't brushed his teeth, I opened my laptop and typed into Facebook Marketplace. Vintage trailer. Used for concession stand. $3,000 OBO. Needs work. I messaged the seller at 11:14 p.m. At 11:16, I was imagining paint colors. At 11:20, I was designing the menu in my head. Nutella and banana, strawberries and cream, lemon sugar with a dusting of powdered magic. At 11:31 p.m., my husband Dave walked in from the shop, saw my manic scrolling, and asked the fated question, "What are you doing?" I spun the laptop around. "We're starting a crepe truck." He blinked. "We're what now?" "Think about it. There's nothing like this around here. All the food trucks are meat, and more meat. We'll be the fresh option. Sweet, light, something pretty for once." He looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "Have you ever made crepes outside your own kitchen?" "I've made them for the church potluck. People begged for the recipe." He shrugged. "And how are you planning to cook, serve, run the till, and keep the kids from accidentally deep frying their fingers?" I smiled. "It's a family business." He made a sound that was somewhere between a cough and a chuckle. "Uh-huh. And who's the family?" "All of us." I stood up. "It'll teach the kids work ethic, how to talk to people, how to run something." "You just described the last 3 chores lists they ignored." But he didn't say no. Which, in our marriage, is basically a green light. 2 days later, we were standing in front of a trailer that looked more meth lab than Martha Stewart, but I saw the potential. Elijah was immediately obsessed. "Mom, there's a serving window. It's like a drive-through." Christine clung to my leg, skeptical. "Is it dirty?" "It's just dusty, honey. It smells like metal." "That's ambiance?" Hannah, ever the introvert, stood back and observed. Her face was unreadable, but I caught the tiniest curve of her lips when I mentioned painting it soft yellow and writing the golden fold in vintage script above the window. "Cool name," she said quietly. That was basically a standing ovation coming from her. We bought it for $2,200. Cash. Dave didn't even fight me on it. He did, however, mutter, "You break it, you bought it," when the axle creaked like an old man's knees during the tow home. The next few weeks were a blur of YouTube tutorials, trips to the hardware store, and heated discussions over whether Christine was old enough to run the money. She said yes. Dave said, "Not unless you want to lose it." The kids were involved, in bursts. Elijah loved helping Dave cut wood for the new countertop and spent half his time trying to flirt with the teenage girl at the lumber desk. Christine sorted paper straws by color with laser focus. Hannah took over organizing the supply list on a shared Google Doc, unprompted. That girl's love language is spreadsheets. As for me, I made batter, a lot of it, tweaked it, perfected it, practiced with a borrowed griddle until I could flip crepes with my eyes closed. I made sweet ones, savory ones, invented a maple pecan apple one that made Dave stop mid-chew and mumble, "Damn, that's good." By the time our first event rolled around, a Sunday market in nearby Culbertson, I had labeled squeeze bottles for sauces, practiced folding techniques, and made every kid try on their aprons twice. "You ready?" I asked, standing before our gloriously painted truck. "Ready as we'll ever be," Dave said. "I was born ready," Elijah added. "I don't want anyone to yell," Christine whispered, holding my hand. "No one's going to yell," I promised. I believed it when I said it. I really did. But promises are funny things, especially when you make them before facing a line of 30 people waiting for hot food in the summer sun. Chapter 2. The Dream and the Drill Gun. The crepe truck didn't come with instructions. It came with a wasp nest in the vent hood and a suspicious stain on the linoleum. "What do you think it is?" Elijah asked, poking it with a stick. "Let's not find out," I muttered, spraying it with a homemade vinegar blend and trying to pretend I had some idea what I was doing. Day 1 of truck rehab was chaos in denim shorts. Dave handed me a drill. I held it backwards. Elijah scraped paint while humming the Mario theme. Christine kept handing me screwdrivers I didn't ask for. And Hannah sat under the shade of a cottonwood tree, quietly taking notes in a notebook labeled Launch Plan. She had given herself the role of project manager. I didn't assign it to her. She simply appointed herself, and honestly, thank God someone did. The kids asked questions like, "Do we get paid? Can we have tips? What if we get on TikTok?" I answered with a solid, "We'll see," to everything. Dave had one question. "How long are you planning to keep this up?" I didn't know what he meant. This being the sanding, the obsessing, the dreaming, the need to prove I could make something out of nothing. Or maybe this meant dragging the entire family into a project I'd birthed in a flash of frustration. "Until it works," I said. "Or until you burn out," he said under his breath. I wasn't trying to be overbearing, but my Enneagram 8 soul couldn't help itself. I saw the vision. I saw it clear as day. A line of happy customers, my kids high-fiving, the smell of strawberries and sugar in the air. Everyone learning, thriving, becoming stronger, because I'd had the guts to begin. It was hard not to act like a dictator when I knew what was best, or thought I did. "Christine, don't stack those cups like that. They'll fall." "Elijah, please stop climbing inside the cooler." "Hannah, we need an updated checklist for condiments and storage. That one's already outdated." After one particularly intense afternoon of me trying to get everyone to paint trim at the exact same time and in the exact same way, Elijah dropped his brush and said, "Is this supposed to be fun? Because it's not fun." Dave raised an eyebrow from the steps. "From the mouths of babes." That night, I lay in bed with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling fan turning like a slow propeller blade. Was I ruining it before we'd even begun? The next day, I tried a different approach. I printed out job cards for each kid. Elijah, setup, hauling, trash, ice. He fist pumped. "I'm the muscle." Christine, register assistant, straw and napkin stocker, hospitality. She beamed. "I like hospitality." Hannah, scheduling, supply tracking, customer feedback journal. She looked at me sideways. "You're giving me homework at the fair?" "It's market research." "Okay, I'm in." I gave Dave the job card that said, "Grill Maintenance and Emergency Problem Solver." He laughed. "You mean I get to fix all the things that break when everyone else panics?" Exactly. And you? I showed him mine. Crepe artist slash executive visionary. That's not a real job, he said. It is now, I grinned. We practiced for the next 2 weekends. I made crepes every Saturday morning. The kids rotated roles. Christine made a fake register out of a shoebox and sold pretend crepes to our dog. Elijah made a game out of how fast he could haul the folding table from the garage. Hannah created a digital inventory in Google Sheets with automatic calculations. We were still messy, still figuring it out. But the truck was coming together. The faded red exterior was now painted a warm yellow with hand-lettered script. Hannah suggested we add wildflower decals. Christine insisted on a tip jar that said college fund or pony, not sure yet. By the end of the month, we were booked for the Culbertson Sunday Market. Our launch day, I had created an Instagram account at the Golden Fold MT and posted countdown photos. A friend from church messaged me, "You're amazing. I could never do what you're doing." I stared at that message for a while. It felt nice to be seen as brave. It felt less nice to admit that I was operating entirely on adrenaline and that I hadn't slept more than 5 hours in a single night all week. "Do you think we're ready?" I asked Dave as we loaded up crates of Nutella, bananas, whipped cream, and batter that Saturday night. He shrugged. "Define ready." "Elijah's ready," I said. "He's been timing how fast he can set up the cooler. Christine's memorized every price. Hannah has the checklist laminated." Dave leaned against the counter and looked at me. "But are you ready?" I wanted to say yes. Instead, I said, "I will be." That morning, we arrived at the market at 6:45 a.m. It was already warm. Elijah jumped out first. Hannah started checking off boxes on her clipboard. Christine clung to my hand. The line of vendors was slowly setting up, booths sprouting like morning glories. Across from us, a man in a straw hat and cargo shorts was selling handmade cutting boards. 2 booths down, a woman was setting out jars of lavender honey. And there we were, the Golden Fold, with our hand-lettered sign, crepe batter in labeled buckets, and a dream bigger than my ability to hold it all together. At 8 a.m., the bell rang. We opened our window. By 8:05, there was a line. By 8:10, I was sweating. By 8:15, Christine dropped the coin box. By 8:17, I had my first meltdown. And by 8:20, someone said, "This is the best thing I've ever tasted." I smiled, barely. My hand was shaking on the spatula. My head buzzed. This was the dream. But I couldn't stop thinking, I don't know how to do this without yelling. Chapter 3: Launch and Letdown. The batter was perfect. Light, slightly sweet, with just the right elasticity to fold without tearing. I'd tested the ratios for weeks, at home, on my camping griddle, even once at church when I volunteered to make brunch for the youth group. The crepes were not the problem. Everything else? Definitely the problem. Our first customer at the Culbertson Sunday Market was a sweet older woman wearing a crocheted shawl and too much blush. She ordered the strawberry and cream. I smiled, coming right up. Then I looked down and realized I hadn't turned on the burner. "Just a minute," I said too brightly, clicking the igniter as sweat pooled under my armpits. The flame finally lit. I spread the batter in a too thick layer and cursed under my breath when it stuck on one side. Christine was whispering, "Mom," behind me. "What?" She flinched. "Someone's asking about the Nutella one." I turned to see a man holding up 2 fingers. "Can I get 2 of the chocolate ones?" "Sure," I said, already burning the first crepe. Hannah slid past me with the clipboard. "We've got 5 people in line and the register's glitching." "Tell them we'll be right with them," I said, scraping the first crepe off the pan with increasing panic. "Christine, can you—" Christine wasn't there anymore. Elijah popped up at the window. "Mom, I'm gonna go talk to the pickle guy. He said he has habanero pickles." "No, Elijah, stay." But he was gone. 5 minutes later, I was flipping crepes, answering questions, manning the register, restocking napkins, and slowly transforming into someone I didn't recognize. My voice got louder. My movements got faster. My face felt hot. My vision narrowed. I wasn't flipping crepes anymore. I was fighting for survival. Christine returned, quiet as a shadow, holding the coin box like it was made of glass. She watched me burn a third crepe. I muttered a word I hoped she hadn't learned yet. Her lower lip wobbled. "Christine, can you just—" I snapped, then stopped myself. But it was too late. Her eyes filled. She set the box on the table and walked away. I watched her tiny back retreat behind the truck, guilt hitting me harder than any mistake I'd made all morning. "I didn't mean it like that," I called after her. No response. Dave was off getting ice. He'd conveniently left right as the line got long. Hannah was trying to solve the register problem with stoic determination. Elijah reappeared with a pickle in his hand and hot sauce on his cheek. "Mom," he said, holding out a jar, "we could totally upsell these with the savory crepes." "I don't care about pickles right now, Elijah." He blinked. "Okay, geez." Then, in unison, a group of 4 women in yoga pants said, "Can we do a split order with 2 lemon sugar and 2 strawberry cream?" I nodded automatically and turned back to the griddle, my hands shaking as I poured the batter. It sizzled too fast. I was too hot. I couldn't breathe. My voice cracked. "Everyone just wait a minute." Dead silence. Even the pickle guy turned. I wish I could become invisible. Instead, I kept flipping. At 11:30 a.m., the rush slowed. Hannah had solved the register problem. Christine returned silently and restocked the napkins without looking at me. Elijah was charming a local couple with a story about how we make crepes but also dreams. I wiped down the griddle and watched them. I'd wanted this to be a team, a family business, a joy. Instead, I'd turned it into a pressure cooker. And the only one boiling over was me. When the last customer left, I slumped on the little stool behind the counter. Hannah handed me a bottle of water and sat next to me. "You okay?" she asked. I shrugged. "People liked it," she offered. "A lot. They said it was different." "Good." I snapped at your sister. "She knows you didn't mean to." "Still." Silence for a moment. Then Hannah said, "You're kind of like a crepe." I laughed, tired and surprised. "What does that mean?" "Delicate, but you hold a lot." I stared at her, this 14-year-old who barely spoke unless spoken to, and she saw me clearer than I saw myself. "Too much," I whispered. "Then maybe fold less," she said, standing up. "You don't have to stuff it all in." We closed up shop slowly. Customers waved on their way out. One woman stopped to say, "Best thing here, hands down. Please come back next week." I smiled and thanked her, but my chest was tight. When we got home, I took a long shower. The hot water felt like forgiveness. Later that night, while the kids watched a movie and Dave cleaned out the cooler, I sat with my planner and wrote 3 words at the top of a fresh page. "Don't ruin it." Then underneath, "Let them help. Breathe. Trust the process." I didn't know what kind of business we were building yet, but I knew I didn't want to build it on stress and control. I wanted joy. I wanted connection. I wanted grace. And I'd need to learn how to give it especially to myself. Chapter 4. A Team, Not a Tyrant. The Monday after the market, no one wanted to talk about crepes. Christine sat at the kitchen counter, slowly dipping a graham cracker into her milk, like it was the saddest cookie in the world. Elijah was outside, fixing his bike with a rubber mallet. Hannah was on the couch, earbuds in, zoning out to some fantasy audiobook. And I was trying to resist the urge to organize the napkin bin for the third time. It felt like a hangover, except instead of wine, it was disappointment. I'd had a vision of us high-fiving after each sale, laughing as we wiped powdered sugar from our faces, exhausted but fulfilled. Instead, I'd snapped. I'd micromanaged. I'd melted down. And worst of all, I'd hurt the little people I was supposed to be inspiring. At lunch, I finally sat down across from Christine. She glanced at me warily. "I'm sorry," I said. She blinked. "For what?" "For yelling, for being snappy. You didn't do anything wrong." Christine looked down at her sandwich. "I didn't want you to be mad." That cracked something open in me. "I wasn't mad at you, sweetie. I was overwhelmed. That's something I'm working on." She nodded, but I could tell it still sat in her chest like a cold marble. Later that night, after the dishes were done and Dave had escaped to the garage under the noble guise of checking the trailer axle, I called a family meeting. Hannah appeared with her clipboard, Elijah with a pickle, Christine with a wary look. I took a deep breath. "Okay, so Sunday was rough." Everyone nodded. "I want to make this work, but not if it means everyone hates it. Or me." Hannah raised a hand. "Can I speak freely? Please." "You're kind of intense." I blinked. "I know. And when you're stressed, it makes everything feel like we're about to get in trouble." Elijah chimed in. "I thought it was going to be fun. Like, yeah, we'd work, but also kind of hang out." Christine whispered, "I don't like it when you yell." And that was the holy trinity of truth I'd been avoiding. I took it in. Every word. I didn't defend myself. I didn't cry. I didn't explain away my behavior. Instead, I said the magic sentence I'd been afraid to say for years. "You're right." They all looked at me, surprised. I've been trying to control everything because I want it to be good. But I forgot that good isn't the same as perfect, and this is supposed to be ours, not just mine. Hannah tilted her head. "So, you're not going to micromanage anymore?" "I'm going to try not to." Elijah grinned. "So can we make the playlist?" "Sure." Christine's hand shot up. "Can I still be in charge of the money box?" I hesitated. She stared at me with wide eyes and whispered, "I practiced counting change with Daddy." I nodded. "Okay, but you can ask for help if it gets hard." She beamed. The next day, we sat down as a team and redesigned the flow of the truck. Hannah sketched a new station layout based on who moved where. Elijah timed himself hauling crates from the garage. Christine made signs with smiley faces and thank you messages to hang on the window. And I rewrote my job title from executive visionary to support plus batter prep. Letting go was harder than I expected, but watching them take ownership was better than anything I could have controlled. At the Thursday night market in Glendive, we arrived early, set up like pros, and opened with a playlist Elijah insisted on titled Crepe It Real. I didn't direct. I didn't micromanage. I made batter. I flipped crepes. I smiled at people. Christine nailed every cash transaction. Hannah explained our specials like a seasoned professional. Elijah made everyone laugh, including a pair of teenage girls who kept finding reasons to come back for water. Midway through the evening, an older woman approached the window. She looked vaguely familiar. "You're the crepe truck from Culbertson?" she said. "You had quite a line." I smiled. "We're back, and learning every time." "Well, I brought my sister this time," she said, stepping aside to reveal a woman with a walker and a floral sun hat. She heard about the lemon sugar one and wouldn't stop talking about it. We served them 2 crepes, warm and golden. They sat on a bench nearby, eating slowly and humming to the music. I looked over at my team. Christine was wiping the counter with laser focus. Elijah was restocking napkins while humming. Hannah caught my eye and smiled. Really smiled. I breathed in through my nose, out through my mouth, slowly, and I thought, This is what I wanted. Back at home, after the kids were in bed, I sat on the porch with Dave. "You seemed calmer tonight," he said. "I didn't try to control everything." He nodded. "They're good kids." "I know, and they're smart. Way smarter than I give them credit for." Dave sipped his beer. "So what happens when summer ends?" I paused. I hadn't thought that far ahead. Maybe I didn't need to yet. "Then we fold," I said. He raised an eyebrow. "In crepe terms, we fold and we savor what we made." Chapter 5: Vendor Wisdom and Nervous Systems. We were parked next to a lavender honey booth when the next piece of the puzzle fell into place. It was a Saturday in mid-July, already 82 degrees by 9 a.m., and our yellow truck shimmered like a sunny postage stamp among the pop-up tents and folding tables at the Sydney market. The crepe batter was chilled. The fruit glistened in clear containers. Elijah had filled the ice chest and flirted with the strawberry seller. Christine had created a new sign that said, "Ask about our sweet plus savory special," in purple marker. Hannah, of course, had brought her clipboard and made a seating chart for invisible customers, in case we ever added a seating component. We were running like a machine, but I still felt that coil in my chest, that thrum in my throat. Like something might snap if a spoon dropped wrong. I was laying out bananas when the woman from the booth next door leaned over the counter and said, "You know you don't have to vibrate like that, right?" I looked up. She was maybe 50, silver braid down her back, wearing a linen dress and beat-up Birkenstocks. Her table was full of calming things: lavender honey, rose sprays, handmade beeswax candles. "Excuse me?" I asked. "You're humming like a wire," she said, tapping the space just above her heart. "Right here." I blinked. "I'm just focused." She smiled kindly. "You're wired, not focused." I wanted to argue, but Elijah dropped a spoon and I jumped like it was a firecracker. She cocked her head. I sighed. "Okay, maybe I am a little tense." She handed me a honey stick across the booth line. "You're running on stress chemicals. You're in sympathetic overload." "What does that mean?" I asked, licking honey off my thumb. "It means your nervous system thinks you're being chased by a tiger when you're really just making crepes." I laughed, but it felt uncomfortably accurate. "Try this," she said. "Before you flip the next one, exhale longer than you inhale." "Seriously?" "Just try it." I did. The next order was lemon sugar. I ladled the batter, spread it gently, and as it bubbled, I inhaled for 4 counts and exhaled for 6. The world didn't change, but I felt lighter, like my skin wasn't buzzing quite so hard. Christine noticed first. "You're smiling." "I smile." "Not like that." Later, between customers, I leaned over to the honey lady and said, "Okay, what else you got?" She handed me a spray bottle. "Lavender and vetiver, spritz before the rush." I used it before the lunch wave. The scent grounded me. That day, We sold out of strawberries by 1 p.m. I didn't snap once. Christine didn't cry. Elijah didn't vanish. Hannah didn't sigh. We laughed. We enjoyed it. As we cleaned up, I caught Hannah staring at me. "What?" "You were different today," she said. "Different how?" "Less sharp." "Did I seem lazy?" "No." She smiled. "You seemed kind." That one landed. Because that's who I used to be. Before the pressure, before the perfectionism, before 3 kids and too many hats and the world whispering, "Do more" at every turn. I missed that version of me. Apparently they did too. That evening, we had a family debrief around the patio table with ice cream sandwiches and paper towels for napkins. "What worked today?" I asked. Hannah. "The spray." And the playlist, without any songs about heartbreak. Christine. "The folding system, the new one with the triangle corners." Elijah. "The girl in the hat, but also the fruit pre-portioning." I grinned. "What should we change?" Christine. "Mom shouldn't say 'what now' every time someone taps her." Elijah. "Or mutter under her breath like a cartoon villain." Hannah. "You were better today. I think you're learning too." It hit me like a gentle wave. They weren't just working with me. They were watching me. Learning how to lead by watching how I live. If I led with anxiety, they'd learn to equate leadership with stress. If I led with trust, joy, and regulation, they'd learn that business could be love in motion. That night, I texted the vendor next door. "Thank you." I didn't know I was running from tigers. Crepe line tigers, but still. She replied, "You're not alone. Most women are. You just decided to stop." And then she added, "Remember, regulated mothers raise resilient kids." I sat with that. Let it settle like the last puff of powdered sugar on a perfect crepe. This business wasn't just about profit, or proving something, or even family bonding. It was about becoming the kind of woman my children could model. The kind of leader who didn't lead with fear. Chapter 6, Tiny Shifts, Big Smiles. By the following weekend, the crepe truck felt less like a battlefield and more like a body in motion, muscle memory forming where chaos used to live. We didn't speak it aloud, but something had shifted. It was in the way Elijah set up the trash can without being asked. In the way Christine did her change counting dance under her breath before the first sale. In the way Hannah gently corrected a customer's math and then winked at me like a pro. And it was in me too. I had started a new ritual. Just before the window opened, I placed one hand on the side of the truck and whispered to myself, "Joy over perfection. People over pace." It was corny. It was woo. It worked. That Saturday, we were booked for a double header, a morning farmer's market in Poplar and a late afternoon block party in Bainville. "You really think we can do both?" Dave asked as we packed the griddle. "I think we can try." He gave me a look that said, "That's what worries me." Poplar's market was slow but steady. We tested a new special, brown sugar pear with whipped mascarpone. Christine renamed it the Mountain Sunset. People loved it, even though it didn't make a lick of sense. Hannah made a chalkboard sign with the new name and added a tiny doodle of a mountain range. I caught 3 customers taking pictures of it for Instagram. "You're a branding genius," I told her. She shrugged, but her cheeks flushed. "And me?" I was trying on something new, silence. Not the tense, holding it all in silence of before. A softer silence. one where I watched my kids work without interfering. Christine handing back exact change and saying, "Enjoy the sunset." Elijah offering napkins to a group of dads while cracking a joke about how real men eat crepes. Hannah wiping down the counter with methodical grace. They didn't need me in every step. They just needed me steady. The Bainville block party, however, was another beast entirely. We parked on Main Street between a snow cone truck and a barbecue rig blasting country music. People were everywhere, kids with balloons, teenagers in crop tops, older couples wearing matching hats. It was loud, busy, frenzied. I could feel the heat crawling up my spine. Christine caught me rubbing my temples and reached for the lavender spray. She spritzed it into the air. "Reset," she said. I smiled. "You remembered." She nodded. "We're a team." And suddenly, the noise wasn't a threat. It was just sound. By dusk, we had a line down the block. A woman came up to the window and asked, "Are you the ones with the pear crepe?" "We are," I said. "Sold out of that one, but we've got an apricot almond that'll knock your socks off." She nodded. "My cousin told me to find the yellow truck. Said it's like getting hugged and fed at the same time." I looked back at the kids, faces flushed, shirts dusted with sugar, laughter low and real. I turned back and said, "That's kind of our thing." When the last customer left, I sat on the back step of the truck with a melted lemonade and my legs stretched out into the night air. Elijah sat beside me and tossed me a cold paper towel. "You didn't yell today," he said. "I'm trying something new." "What is it?" "Being human," I said, "with room to screw up and still be kind." He nodded and leaned his head on my shoulder. "You know," he said, "we're kind of famous now." "Oh yeah? People at the fair were saying they hope we come back next year." "Maybe we will. Maybe we'll franchise." I laughed. "Slow down, Shark Tank." He grinned, then stood to help Hannah carry the cooler. I watched them. These tiny people who weren't so tiny anymore, and I realized I wasn't just learning how to run a food truck. I was learning how to let go. Let go of control, of perfection, of the old belief that everything depended on me doing it all and doing it flawlessly. Turns out, when I let go, everyone else rises, even me. Chapter 7. Rave Reviews and Repeating Patterns. It started with a photo. Someone, probably a teenager with a good phone and an aesthetic eye, snapped a picture of our strawberry cream crepe mid-fold, the filling spilling out like it had just exhaled a sigh of summer. They posted it to Instagram with the caption, "This crepe changed my life, 10/10, Bainville needed this." I didn't see it right away, but my friend Lisa texted me the screenshot 2 hours later, followed by, "You're going viral, babe." By the end of the day, our page had over 500 new followers and 3 DMs asking where we'd be next. The dopamine hit was immediate. So was the panic. "Do we need to prep more batter?" I asked, pacing the kitchen at 9 p.m. "We haven't even confirmed the next event," Dave said, slowly folding a towel. "I should print new signs? Maybe update the logo? Do you think we need a canopy for shade? Christine got pink last time and said it gave her a headache." "Elijah's asleep. Christine is asleep. You should be too." I shook my head. "We're not ready." "For what?" I looked at him. "For being known." The next Saturday market was a storm of compliments, selfies, and long lines. We'd doubled our batter supply and still ran out of strawberries by 10:45 a.m. "I drove from Wolf Point for this," one woman said. "Please tell me you're doing weddings." "Elijah, wedding crepes?" I asked. He smirked. "Only if I get to wear a tie." Even Hannah cracked a smile. But beneath the high fives and praise, I felt the old familiar tightening in my chest, like someone had turned the volume knob on my inner critic back up to 11. Because now, people expected greatness, and if I dropped the spatula, or worse, disappointed someone, it wouldn't just be me noticing. It would be everyone. I didn't yell. Not really, but I got sharp, short, snippy. At one point, I asked Hannah why we were out of powdered sugar, and she said flatly, "We're not. You just didn't look." I didn't have a comeback, because she was right. At 1 p.m., I burned a crepe. Not just a little crisp, a blackened, unsalvageable folding disaster. Christine was standing behind me, quiet as always, when I sighed and muttered, "I'm such an idiot." She blinked. "Don't say that." "Say what?" "That you're an idiot." I forced a smile. "I'm joking." She shook her head. "I don't think it's funny." Then she turned and walked to the register like a tiny disappointed accountant. Later that night, after the truck was cleaned and the kids were showered and Dave was out back sorting tools, I sat alone at the kitchen table. I stared at my planner. It was full of scribbles, events, orders, battery inventory, notes about new flavor ideas, social media to-dos, goals, deadlines, and a single sticky note from Christine that simply said, "Don't forget joy." I hadn't noticed her put it there, but there it was, like a little slap from the universe wrapped in a 9-year-old's handwriting. The next morning, I called the honey vendor. "Do you have time for a walk?" I asked. She laughed. "You mean, like, away from your stand, mid-season, on a Sunday?" "I think I need it." We met by the park. She handed me a cup of herbal tea that smelled like courage and regret. I told her everything. About the photo, the pressure, the need to be liked, the return of that old inner tyrant. She nodded, slow and wise. Growth always invites back the thing you thought you healed. But I thought I was better. You are, but now you're facing new circumstances. Your nervous system doesn't know you're safe. It just knows the stakes feel higher. So it pulls out the old armor. I stared at the creek as it moved past us. "I don't want to go back." "Then don't," she said simply. "But be kind to the part of you that panicked. It thinks it's protecting you." I didn't say anything for a long while. Then I asked, "Do you ever stop feeling like you need to earn love by performing?" She looked at me with so much gentleness, it nearly undid me. "No," she said, "but you learn to catch it sooner and love yourself even when you forget." That afternoon, I sat down with the kids before our next event. "I've been pushing again," I told them. They nodded. No one needed a recap. "I want this to be successful, but not at the cost of our peace, so I'm asking for your help. If I get snippy, call me out, gently." Christine raised her hand. "Can I say, 'Mom, be a warm crepe, not a crispy one?'" We all laughed. "Perfect," I said. That night, I posted the photo that started it all. But this time, I added a caption of my own. "People love our crepes, but the best thing I've made this summer is learning to lead with love, especially when it's loud and hot and the line is long. Here's to families who grow together, and to the messy magic that happens when you choose joy over perfection, again and again." Chapter 8, The Big Fair Breakdown. The Richland County Summer Fair was the Super Bowl of our season. 4 days, tens of thousands of people. Livestock shows, carnival rides, a rodeo, and enough fried food to cause a collective heart murmur. We were invited to vend for all 4 days. I said yes before I had a chance to think about what that meant. Now, as we pulled the yellow truck onto the gravel fairgrounds, My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than they needed to. "You okay?" Dave asked from the passenger seat. I lied. Totally. But inside, I wasn't okay. Because this time, it mattered. People would remember this. If we did well, we could be the truck people talked about. If we didn't, well, Bainville was small, and shame travels fast. The first 2 days went fine. Not magical, not disastrous. Just fine. But by the 3rd day, exhaustion had burrowed into all of us. Hannah had dark circles under her eyes. Elijah kept sneaking away to hang out with a cute girl from the lemonade stand. Christine dropped the coin box and burst into tears. And I became the worst version of myself. "You've got to stay at your post, Elijah." "Can we please just focus, Hannah?" "Christine, honey, stop crying, please. I don't have time for this right now." I saw their faces shift, eyes narrowing, shoulders sinking. But I couldn't stop. Not with a line 20 deep and a food blogger rumored to be roaming the grounds. A man at the window asked, "Can I do 2 gluten-free, 1 without sugar, and 1 with extra mascarpone?" I wanted to scream. Instead, I muttered, "Sure," like it was a threat. Behind me, the burner flared too hot. I flipped the crepe too early. It tore in half. I cursed, loudly. The kind of word you say under your breath at home but accidentally blast in public when your nervous system has officially checked out. Silence behind me. Then a whisper. It was Christine. "Mom, be a warm crepe, not a crispy one." The sentence floated in the air between us, like a lifeline. I froze. The griddle sizzled, and then I laughed. A small, broken laugh that cracked open my chest. I turned around. Elijah was watching me with cautious eyes. Hannah had stopped mid-squeeze on the whipped cream canister. Christine was looking up at me with her heart in her face. "I'm sorry," I said. No excuses, no qualifiers. Just that. And somehow, that was enough. "Reset," Hannah said softly and handed me the lavender spray. I stepped outside the truck, found the patch of grass behind the porta-potties, sat down in the shade, and cried. Not the ugly, hopeless kind, the releasing kind. 5 minutes later, Hannah sat next to me. "You're not a bad mom." "I felt like one." "You're just tired. We all are." "Are you mad at me?" She shook her head. "I'm proud of you, for stopping." I exhaled. "I'm learning." We all are. When we returned, the kids had rearranged the workflow slightly. Hannah moved the condiments closer to the counter. Elijah took over announcing the orders, his radio DJ voice making everyone laugh. Christine taped a tiny sign on the edge of the window that read, "Thanks for being patient. We're a family, not a factory." I got behind the griddle, rolled my shoulders, breathed in. The next crepe flipped perfectly. The one after that, too. The woman who ordered the mascarpone special came back and said, "I don't know what you put in this, but it tastes like someone cared." And for the first time that day, I did. That night, after closing, we sat on the truck's back step, eating leftover batter-fried bananas with honey and salt. Christine curled into my side. Elijah told bad jokes. Hannah quietly updated the digital tips spreadsheet on her phone. "I almost quit today," I said. Dave looked at me, amused. "Today?" "Right around the coin box incident." He smiled. "But you didn't." "Number because they didn't let me." He looked at the kids. "That's what happens when you build something together. The thing keeps you upright when you forget how to stand." Back at home, I poured myself a glass of water and looked in the mirror. sunburned, flour on my elbow, hair frizzed out like a dandelion. But my eyes looked like mine again. Not sharp, not desperate, just soft. And I whispered, just to myself, "You're becoming someone I like." Chapter 9. Crepes and Conversations. By the last week of August, the fair signs came down, the wind shifted cooler, and our calendar held only 2 events. Just like that, crepe season was winding down, and something about it made me ache. Not because I wanted more chaos, but because we'd found a rhythm, and I wasn't ready to lose it. Christine still sang to herself while prepping toppings. Elijah had started showing up early without being asked. Hannah, ever the quiet operator, added customer feedback questions to our setup sheet. She wanted to gather testimonials in case we scale next season. I was starting to suspect she was a small business prodigy disguised as a 14-year-old introvert. And me? I'd stopped barking, stopped scrambling. I had learned how to pause. Not perfectly, but enough that I recognized myself again. We were becoming a team that didn't just make crepes. We created a feeling, something warm, calm, and unexpected in a world always rushing. It was at our second-to-last event, just a small weekend craft fair in Freud, when I overheard Christine explaining our story to a group of ladies in matching rhinestone ball caps. "My mom got tired of all the meat trucks," she said, "so we made our own. But the first one was kinda hard." They laughed. Christine continued, confident. "She used to yell a lot, but now she breathes and smells her special spray and doesn't cry anymore." They laughed harder. I walked up behind her and raised an eyebrow. "I still cry, but not while I'm flipping." She grinned. "That's true." One of the women said, "She's got a head for business, your daughter." I looked down at Christine, who smiled up at me with strawberry on her cheek and no idea how powerful she was becoming. "She's got a heart for it too," I said. That afternoon, after cleanup, I brought the kids hot cocoa from the gas station and sat them down at the truck's fold-out table. "I want to ask you something," I said. They blinked. "Would you want to do this again next summer?" Christine clapped immediately. "Yes." Hannah hesitated. "Maybe." Elijah shrugged. "Depends if I get my license." I laughed. "Fair enough." "But," Hannah added, "I would do it again if it's like this." "Like what?" She tilted her head. "Like fun. Like we all know what we're doing. Like we're us. Not a boss and her tired workers." That one landed. Deep. "I like us too," I said. Elijah said, "Also, we need savory options." The guy from the taco truck asked if we do ham and cheese. Christine said, "Can we make a Christmas crepe?" "Like cinnamon and peppermint?" Hannah said, "We should track sales by flavor next year." And suddenly, my heart was full of next year. Not because I needed to prove anything anymore, but because it felt good to build something that mattered together. That night, as we unloaded leftover batter and paper goods into the pantry, I pulled Hannah aside. "I know I've been hard sometimes." "You've been learning," she said simply. "So have you." She looked at me, thoughtful. "I thought this was going to be your thing," she said. "But I liked being needed." I hugged her. She stiffened, then melted. Teenagers are like sourdough, moody, slow to rise, but full of life if you treat them right. "I always needed you," I said. "I just didn't always show it right." Later, I sat alone on the back step of the crepe truck, sipping tea under the string lights Elijah had zip-tied to the roof. Christine came out and curled beside me, head on my arm. "Will you be sad when it's done?" she asked. A little, I said. I won't, she said confidently, because we can always make crepes, and I still have my apron. I laughed. Do you know what I've learned? I asked her. She shook her head. I thought I was going to teach you guys about business, but you taught me how to be soft and steady and to stop being scared all the time. Christine didn't say anything. She just reached over, took my hand, and whispered, I noticed. Chapter 10. The Bittersweet Close. The final market of the season was quieter than I expected. Fall had brushed the edges of Bainville. The wind had a bite. The trees along Main Street had that early orange tinge that made everything feel both beautiful and temporary. We arrived before sunrise. Elijah unloaded with a little less flair. Christine wore mittens and sipped cocoa while sorting bills. Hannah didn't even bring her clipboard, which was maybe the most shocking sign of all. I felt it in my bones. This was the end. Not the end, maybe, but an end. We set up slowly with fewer words and more nods. It was all muscle memory now, and soul memory too. By 10 a.m., the first regulars started arriving. A young couple we'd served every week ordered their usual, 1 lemon sugar, 1 Nutella banana. This was our little Saturday thing, the woman said. We'll miss you. A rancher in boots and a Carhartt coat handed me a 10 and said, Don't change the batter. It's just right. Even the food inspector, a man not known for warmth, said, You folks did something special this summer. I swallowed hard after that one, because we had, and for once, I knew it. Around noon, Christine asked if she could work the register, all by herself. Absolutely, I said. It's yours. Elijah offered to take over the grill while I handled plating. Hannah managed inventory without writing a single list. I found myself watching them more than working. They didn't need me to hover anymore. They had grown. And maybe, just maybe, so had I. After the last crepe was served, I called the kids to the back step of the truck. Before we tear down, I said, I have something for each of you. I handed Christine the cash box. Next season, you're head of finance. She gasped and hugged it to her chest like I'd just given her a unicorn. Elijah, I said, tossing him the trailer key. You're officially lead setup and maintenance. He puffed up like a rooster in a windstorm. Can I get business cards? We'll see. And Hannah, I handed her a soft folder with our final revenue breakdown and testimonials she'd collected. You're brand manager, and honestly, probably CEO in training. She smiled, a full, wide Hannah-style smile. Does this mean I can veto ugly fonts next year? Absolutely. Dave wandered over, wiping his hands on a shop towel. What's my title? I thought a moment. Founding investor and emotional support spouse. He grinned. Fair. We packed up slow, no one in a rush. The truck was dusty now, a little worn from the road, but still golden. It looked like us, weathered, joyful, proven. As we pulled away from the market for the last time, Christine waved to every vendor like royalty. Hannah was already making notes on how to improve the layout next year. Elijah played music from his phone, yelling, This is our official season wrap song, though no one agreed. And me? I drove, with the window cracked open, the cool breeze in my face, and the quiet hum of gratitude in my chest. Back at home, I stood in the doorway of the pantry, staring at the tubs of leftover flour, sugar, and sauces. They would wait patiently for spring, but I wouldn't, because something had bloomed in me this summer. Something tender and true, and it wouldn't be packed away. I had learned how to lead without fear, how to trust small hands and young wisdom, how to stop rushing and start seeing. My kids didn't just learn how to fold crepes. They learned how to fold kindness into their work, pride into their posture, joy into every burned edge. And I learned that perfection is nothing compared to peace. That control is a terrible substitute for connection. That your nervous system is often the loudest voice in the room, and when you calm it, everyone breathes easier. That night, I wrote 3 things in my journal. 1. I don't have to be the best, just present. 2. Listening is a leadership skill. 3. My kids are geniuses in tiny shoes. Then, just below that, in bold. Next season, teach the kids how to run it without me. Sit on a bench, eat a crepe, let them shine. And I knew, deep in my bones, this wasn't the end. This was the beginning of something even better.